You're listening to a special presentation from Night of the Living podcast, Zoned Out, the Twilight Zone, revisited with Freddy and Joe. Oh boy, Joe.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
There's a weird, we're going to get into The Arrival today, and there's a really creepy little coincidence about this episode and its director.
Ooh, a coinky dink.
Yeah, that I'll get into in the little behind the scenes opening. But how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Freddie?
Good. We were saying that Joe is dressed like a greaser right now from the 50s.
I am. I had a nice, comfy, coat thing on, and there's this one part of the sleeve that just pokes me. I don't know if it's pokes me the wrong way or something. I got to take a look at it, but every once in a while it happens, and I'm like, oh, I can't wear this, so I just got my undershirt on, whatever. I'm like,
hey,
Danny, my name is Danny. Hey, everybody. What is that? I don't even know. That's not a 50s greaser. That was some guy in New York, I guess.
Well,
or
greasers
something.
are often Italian American characters in the films, you know?
Sure. Okay.
It. Danny Zuko.
Think about it.
You know, the others. So, yeah, we're talking. You know what? Speaking of, uncomfortable little things, I have a pillow that has a zip up, case, on the inside.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll wake up and the thing, whatever that's called, that you pull to zip stuff up is jabbing me somewhere. It's awful.
Oh, the zipper pull?
Yeah. Zipper pull. That's what they're called.
I start laughing because you're like, speaking of uncomfortable, what are two middle-aged white guys going to talk about? But you know what? We'll go, Andy, what's his name? Andy Rooney?
Yeah, Andy Rooney. I sat on my nuts this morning. If you're old enough, I don't know how the age of you, listener, but if you don't know who Andy Rooney is, he's worth looking up. Grumpy old man, kind of the beginning of a lot of what modern podcasting is, came from this personality.
Epic eyebrows, yeah. 60 Minutes.
Yep, classic.
All this and Andy Rooney. I used to always get him mixed up with Mickey Rooney, and I knew that was wrong. So.
That's way wrong.
Yeah.
Couldn't be more different. So we're talking about The Arrival. This episode aired September 22nd, 1961. It's the second of two directed by Boris Sagal. If you remember, that's Katie Sagal's dad.
Oh, yeah, it is. There is a connection.
Yeah, we talked about The Silence already, which is the episode about the bet at the gentleman's. I started to call it a gentleman's club. at the you know what I mean. I can't think of the other name for that organization, like a country club type of thing.
Yeah, separate club, but for gentlemen. Yeah, it does sound like, gentlemen's club does fit, but
yeah, without the dancers. Instead, it's just old guys making bets and speculating. But really good director, both these episodes. Here's the tragic coincidence that's connected with the episode. And I think we may have mentioned this in the Silence episode, but I thought it was more because of the content of this episode. It's really creepy. But Seagal died by walking into the rear propeller of a helicopter.
What?
Yeah, he exited the helicopter, and instead of going towards the front of it, he went towards the back.
That's right. You talked about that. You did bring that one up, but the when people get into the episode, it's real weird. Boy, that's weird.
Yeah, of all things. This one was written by Rod Serling. It's set in an airfield, which it doesn't seem like a modern giant commercial airfield. It feels like kind of one of the smaller airfields.
I want to call it an airport, but it doesn't feel like an airport. It's like when you're out in the middle of the country and it's one of those rural ones where you see it on the map and you're like, that's an airport. It's like, yeah, it's an airfield. It's just a just a field where you can land. Yeah,
it's a little smaller. We used to have one where then they built a shopping mall on top of it when I was a kid. But that's our this is like the area I'm in. It wasn't like rural or anything, but if you went north, there was this weird little airfield in maybe the late 70s, early 80s.
Literal flyover country.
Literal, yeah. It's for those little planes. Not quite the 747s and stuff, but yeah, the little planes smaller jets come and go, or prop planes. Sure. Not jets. Usually prop planes come in and out of those places.
Yeah.
But
We used to always refer to those as like prop planes or puddle jumpers where they had the propellers on them, and most people don't use them anymore, I guess.
they're terrifying.
Yeah. And loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a cast of 8, including Serling, but there's Grant Sheckly, who's our lead in this. That's Harold J. Stone, a reliable character actor. He was known for his strong, unsympathetic roles in TV crime shows during the 1960s and 70s. Despite a promising start in Broadway and film, Stone found his niche in television, becoming a fixture in numerous police dramas. He passed away at the age of 92.
Wow.
Lived a long, full life. Paul Malloy. This is the second of 2 appearances by Ben Franklin lookalike Fred Wayne. He was he was Barney the agent in 22. 22.
Oh.
Yeah. So he was he represented the dancing lady who was in the hospital.
Interesting.
In 22. That was him. Yeah. Airline executive Bankston. This is first of 2 appearances by Cincinnati native, my hometown, Noah Keane, who's going to come back in the trade-ins later on. Noah Keane, he was born here in 1920, actor, director. He's known for his roles in Battle for the Planet of the Apes, another Rod Serling connection, The $6 Million Man, and Gable and Lombard, something I had never heard of before.
I still haven't heard of that.
Too?
I guess I just now. Yeah.
Yep. I'm like, I don't know what Gable and Lombard is. Then we have Robbins. I didn't write down exactly what their roles in the story are as I'm going along here, but Grant,
I did capture those parts. Yeah. Robbins is the guy who is he's like the ground crew member. He's got the jumpsuit on, I think.
Oh, okay, cool. So that's Robert Carnes, who he was an actor known for Rocky King, Detective, Scudda-hoo, Scudda-hey. Never heard of that either, from 1948, and Police Story from 1973.
That's a TV show or a movie or a.
You know what? Police Story is, I think.
Police Story. I've heard of, but the Scudda-hoo. What is Scudda-hoo?
Oh, Scudda-hoo, Scudda-hey. I never heard of before this. So it sounds to me like it has to be either a comedy or a musical, right? From the name,
right?
But that's Robert Carnes. And here's the thing about, for a long time on this show, I've been listing their, like, wow, this person has 100 and some odd credits, 200 credits. Like all these, a majority of the actors on the Twilight Zone have these insanely prolific careers. So I've just stopped even naming the number of credits they have because it's just too much.
Yeah.
There's so much work behind these guys. We have the character George Cousins. Do you remember which one is George Cousins?
Yes, Cousins is the guy when we first approach the plane, he's got a uniform on, and he's the one who opens the hatch. He kind of bangs on the side of the airplane. It's like, hey, open up in there. So he's the kind of, I don't know,
gotcha,
uniform not ground crew, but like, I don't know, greeting party. I don't know.
It's fun, and we had, because our schedule got shifted a little bit. I haven't seen this episode in like over a week now. So I'm a little, in my notes, I usually will put like exactly what their role in my notes in the episode is, like beyond the name of the character. And this time I'm just like, I realize I haven't circled back and done that. But that George Cousins, this is the first of 2 appearances by Bing Russell, who was in the Ring-a-Ding Girl later on. He's best known for being in Bonanza and the Magnificent Seven. He was also the owner of the Portland Mavericks baseball team, who was like a minor league team. I believe I can't remember what particular league they were in. But he prioritized fun over winning, creating a unique and inclusive environment that attracted players from all over the world. But
nice.
Here's the cool little bit of trivia about good old Bing Russell. He's the father of Kurt Russell and Joe Russell. So,
wow.
Yeah. And Kurt Russell's a huge baseball fan too. And I guess that's why, because of his dad.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. My buddy made a movie called Bone Tomahawk with him about 10 years ago. Actually, I think they're celebrating their 10th anniversary.
Bone Tomahawk is a crazy movie.
I love it.
It's really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John D. Wagner. Shout out.
Unforgettable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
I didn't realize you had a connection to that. That's super awesome.
That is how I became friends with him, is because I was following the production of the movie, and a friend of mine who is an actor, Damien Maffei, was like, you guys need to know each other. You live close to each other. And I was like, really? And then from there, 10 years flew by. But he had great stories about working with Kurt Russell. It sounded like he was a really nice fella. They
super cool. It's a great Western if you haven't seen it, but make no mistake, it's a horror movie. At the end, you will not be let down. It is horrific.
Yeah. It builds up. There's a lot of like walking, and you're like waiting for something to happen. When it does, it pays off big.
Yeah. By the way, Cousins he's called a ramp attendant.
Oh, okay.
I've never heard that. So, yeah.
I guess that's an old timey airfield job. Maybe, who knows? I don't know shit about that industry.
Right. If you have to have somebody to come out on the airfield, and sometimes it still happens, but where you actually go out there and you're like working with the ramp or you're pulling the stairs down or something, apparently you wear a uniform, look professional.
And we have the dispatcher. The only reason I mentioned him in this, it's not a huge character or anything, but it's Jim Bowles, who's going to be in Jezebel later on. He was in The Man from U.N.C.L.E., but he was also on Get Smart and The Ghost and Mr. Chicken. If I remember, I think on Get Smart, he was the guy who would get under the cone of silence with what's his nuts? Yeah. So
Don.
What was his name? Something.
Don Adams.
Don Adams. Yeah. That show was so funny, ahead of its time.
Yes.
So, and then I didn't mention any other minor roles that don't have further connection to the Twilight Zone. There's various and sundry background things going on here.
I was curious if there's a guy in there at the very beginning part who's super gaunt looking. I even identify him as like Gaunt Man as he's talking in here, but I wasn't sure like if he had any interesting stuff or if he even shows up. But I don't know if I don't think he's named. He's dispatcher Jim Bowles. That's exactly
the guy. Yep, that's who I was just talking about.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, Man from U.N.C.L.E. He's got a very distinctive face. He looks like a skeleton with skin pulled over it. No shaming, just recognize.
Just an observation.
Yes.
And then in the episode, just a quick piece of trivia before I hand it over to you, Joe, is that in the episode they conclude that the plane couldn't land itself, right? But in 1957, that happened with a U.S. Air Force DC-3, which is the same type of plane that's in the show. Ran out of fuel, had passengers on board, who all bailed out, like with parachutes. The plane just glided until it landed in a cornfield, and it was fine.
What?
Yeah.
How? Like, okay. Like, but the pilots were they still in it? Do you know, or
no? Everybody got out. As far as I know, everyone who was in it got out. Yeah, they abandoned the ship completely.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I guess they could have stayed on.
Yeah.
So this episode has a double twist, so look forward to that. And Joe, I'm going to hand it over to you, sir.
All right. So we started the episode. It's kind of a cool shot. And this is a great episode for more dynamic shots. There's a big crane shot in there in this aircraft hangar. And it opens up and we're looking at a airplane with two propellers on the engines on the wings. And there's several kind of security guards, officials type people in uniform standing around it. And the plane's all roped off. And the camera, it's a kind of a cool shot. Again, starts coming down and it's a crane shot, comes down and kind of presses in at these officers standing in the front as the narration goes. And then and after the narration starts, it obviously does the usual Twilight Zone spin to Mr. Serling. And he says, "This object, should any of you have lived underground for the better part of your lives and never had occasion to look toward the sky, is an airplane. Its official designation, a DC-3. We offer this rather obvious comment because this particular airplane, the one you're looking at, is a freak." I can't say that without. Sorry, said the right as Freddy took a drink of water.
I just think imagine it has a big booty on it. The plane is out there twerking on the runway.
Oh, okay. Okay. So,
and he calls it, doesn't he say aeroplane? I feel like I heard the word
aeroplane.
I don't know if he did, but aeroplane. I remember somebody in this episode, at least one person's like aeroplane. Nobody says aeroplane anymore.
Aeroplane and robot. Yeah.
Yeah. And they even spelled aeroplane different. It was like AERO.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Sorry. So this is a long introduction, and I got to get through it.
Get back to the freak plane.
Yeah. Okay. It's a freak. I can't say it without laughing. Okay. Now, most airplanes take... Now I can't say airplane normal. Now, most airplanes take off and land as per scheduled. On rare occasions, they crash, but all airplanes can be counted on doing one or the other. Now, yesterday morning, this particular airplane ceased to be just a commercial carrier. As of its arrival, it became an enigma, a 7-ton puzzle made out of aluminum, steel, wire, and a few thousand other component parts, none of which add up to the right thing. In just a moment, we're going to show you the tail end of its history. We're going to give you 90% of the jigsaw pieces, and you and Mr. Sheckly here of the Federal Aviation Agency will assume the problem of putting them together along with finding the missing pieces. This we offer as an evening's hobby, a little extracurricular diversion, which is really the national pastime in the Twilight Zone.
This flight is all out of Lorna Doone cookies and peanuts.
It's about to get freaky. Yeah, it's a so basically as this is happening, we see kind of towards the end of the narration this guy who he's identified as Mr. Sheckly come up into the airplane, kind of looking at it thoughtfully, and then it kind of comes in as he walks right up to the camera, and in the usual Twilight Zone fashion, you get right up in his face, and it pauses for a moment and fades to commercial. So the next scene is from inside an old airport control tower, which is actually kind of cool because I always thought it'd be interesting to see what it looks like from up there, and you really do get to see that. They're watching an airplane land just like the one we saw, and it taxis down the runway, and then we see it kind of come around, and one of the airport ground crew members, this is Robbins, motions for the plane. He's kind of doing that signaling thing where he says, keep coming forward, and the plane is approaching a certain spot, and he signals for the airplane to stop, and then the airplane brakes. You see a close-up of the wheels, and I'm doing all this detail for a reason. The ground crew signals, this is the Robbins, signals to cut the engines, and then goes and puts some wheel chocks in place, and the engines do turn off when he signals. And then a man in uniform, who we find out later is his cousins, approaches the ramp attendant, approaches the passenger of the airplane. He just pauses for a moment, expecting something to happen, and then kind of smacks the side of the airplane. It's like, hey, what are you sleeping in there? He starts doing the usual banter and trying to signal him to open the door, but nobody opens the door. So he kind of opens it from the outside eventually after pounding on it a couple more times. And as he's doing that, this Robbins is going into the luggage compartment. And as Robbins opens the luggage compartment, Cousins is going up into the airplane itself. And Robbins looks around. He's like, "Hey, we got a problem. There's no luggage. We got a whole crew or a whole group of people who aren't going to have any luggage. This is a major issue." And Cousins comes back out, and he's like, "Well, they're going to have to check me out because we don't have any passengers either." And the big reveal. So then we fade into, no, it's not fade yet. I think at this point, they both get on the plane, and you look down it, and there's nobody on there.
Yeah.
And again, it's kind of a cool shot. I think they did they didn't we find out that Serling has a fascination with airplanes or something like that?
I don't remember that.
Or maybe not.
But maybe.
Okay.
Could be.
It's just interesting because you see the inside of an old plane like this. So again, if you're...
Oh, you know what it was? It's his brother was a pilot, right? His brother was a commercial airline pilot because of the Odyssey of Flight 33. That's why we know that.
Right. I was like, there's something there.
Yeah.
But it's cool to see what it was like on these old airplanes, these old passenger airplanes where you'd look in there and it's all cramped and tiny. But So there's nobody on it. And then we fade to a sign that says operations room. And then we're inside that room, and it's a group of people talking, a lot of people talking, and you hear people like, it just couldn't have happened, and it just arrived with no people, and all this sort of stuff.
I picked the wrong week to quit smoking.
Yeah. Roger.
That's your vector.
So Sheckly comes in, and he goes to an official who we find out later is Bankston, the VP of operations. And man, is this guy stressed. he looks super uptight, and for good reason. VP of operations, they don't know what's happening with this airplane. And so he introduces him as Mr. Sheckly from the Federal Aviation Agency, which is what the FAA used to be called. Now it's the Federal Aviation Administration, I believe.
Yep. Weird change.
And he kind of sets the tone for the meeting and introduces Sheckly. And Sheckly says, "Gentlemen, this is not a formal hearing. It's more of in the nature of a preliminary meeting. Now, as your operations chief noted, we're here to unearth as many facts as we can. I'd appreciate hearing from you only facts. And you can save us all a lot of time if you'd avoid personal hypotheses, so we can keep the air clear and not clutter it with 6 dozen theories. Theories happen to be my business. In the 20-odd years I've been with the FAA, I've got a pretty good record in putting together jigsaw puzzles. Maybe some of them haven't been as abnormal as this one, but I'll lay my batting average on the line any hour of the day. All right, let's get down to business."
No one's in trouble. Now just tell me where the missing crew and passengers are, and we'll forget about it. I'm going to close my eyes, and I want you to place the missing crew and passengers on my desk.
Which one of you idiots messed this up? He's got definitely an air of like authority and almost a swagger to it. And I think that's probably pretty common for that era, like, all right, I'm in charge here now. I've got control of this. So several people are questioned in a montage of like questions. So like he'll start asking them a question. They start to answer, and it kind of fades to the next person. We start with the ramp attendant Cousins, who first discovered the airplane with no one in it. And then to Robbins, the ground crew member. And he's like, okay, when you signaled them, did you see the pilots? And he's like, well, no, I was focused on the ground shocks. He gets kind of defensive, but then he's like, oh, well, I know I was, whatever. And then despite their efforts, no one can explain how an empty plane could have landed safely and taxied to a stop and stopped when they signaled and all that sort of stuff. So it's very bizarre.
It's not a cornfield. It's a precise landing.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, at the beginning, he guided it in and told it to cut and stop, and they did. So what the heck? So then they call up the dispatcher from Buffalo, and he says, just verify some details about the flight plan. Did you see the pilots and the co-pilots sign off on this? And when he names the pilot and co-pilot, Sheckly is kind of like, hey, it sound familiar. So he goes, Sheckly says, this is the guy who was the Buffalo dispatcher is the Jim Bowles, is the real gaunt fella. And he says, pilot William J. Slocum, referring to the person who was the pilot of the plane. And the guy says, yes, sir. Co-pilot John O'Brien, that's the name of the first officer? Yes, sir. Did you see them board the aircraft? Well, not exactly, sir. I saw them leave the dispatch office and head for the field. But to the best of your knowledge, that was the crew of the Flight 107 when they took off from Buffalo at 11:30 this morning, to the best of my knowledge. Sheckly's like, William J. Slocum, John O'Brien, and Bankston, the vice president of operations, like, good pilots, both of them, sober, reliable, the best men. I was like, sober. Like, you got to point out sober. They're not heavy drinkers. Yeah.
Maximum 2 martinis pre-flight.
Right, exactly. Yeah. These guys are only buzzing. That's it. And so Sheckly goes, I'm not casting any stones, Mr. Bankston. It's just that the names are so familiar. And then there's like a music cue underneath, so it's intrigue. He goes, well, that will be all for now, but stay where you can be reached. And Bankston then says, Mr. Sheckly, as everyone starts to leave, this is Paul Malloy, our public relations man. And Sheckly gets all like cocky, and he's like, kind of chuckles. Public relations, huh? how much public and what kind of relations are you poor guys going to have after this one? I got 22 years in this saddle, and I've never been licked yet. Oh, some of them take a long time. A couple of tons of metal spread over 50 square miles of countryside. Sometimes all it is a misplaced air scoop, or maybe a loose bolt in the elevator hinge, or once in a blue moon, a pilot with psychosis.
Or someone didn't put their airplane mode on.
Right? Yeah. Someone flushed when we told them to sit in their seat. And finishes with, and that something always shows up. So he's very confident in his abilities. And it was interesting when you mentioned that the PR guy was in the other one. I was like, he looked distinctive. And I was like, did he put on weight? And I'm like, put on weight from when? When did I see this guy before? And so you mentioned that he was the agent. I was like, oh yeah, I can see the connection. But their interactions are really interesting. I'm just going to digress for a second, because this is so 1960s dudes interacting like in a stressful situation. This is a great like demonstration of that. Like everybody's like gruff and mean and it's like yells at each other, but
12 Angry Men vibes.
Yeah. But then they're like cool with it, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, and then, and then they like blow it off like as if nothing happened, right? It's just a weird dynamic from guys in that area were like men's men and always.
I think the 20-minute runtime contributed to that, being the tension being diffused a little sooner than it would have been. You know what I mean? In the story, if he had all of the runway, so to speak, to write the story as long as he wanted, I feel like there would have been more time spent with that.
Right. And nice choice of words.
Thank you.
So the investigation continues. They turns out that we go to another scene, and they're in the hangar by the plane. And apparently they've been researching for like 6 hours, trying to come up with different theories, and everybody's coming up with their different ideas. And I think at one point Robbins is like, okay, so here's what happened. This is what had to have happened. All the passengers had parachutes. That's what was in the baggage compartment. And they all bailed out. And they're like, and then it landed perfectly. And then you guided it. Like you saw that. I mean, that's not, and the thing they keep repeating is this is impossible. This couldn't have happened. And then they're like, and yet it is. And here we are. So let's figure it out. It's just one of those, I liked that, that aspect I thought was really interesting. This can't be possible. And yet we have to figure out how it is possible.
And they don't dilly-dally again because of the short runtime, which is so refreshing.
Yes. There's not a lot of like back and forth of what you might usually see a pissing contest, but that's probably what like you said, is the abbreviated version of that.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. At one point, the guy who plays Bankston, the VP of operations, flubs his line slightly, but they left it in. He said he goes something about being, I'm the vice president of operations. He starts saying president of operations, but he cuts himself off really quick and corrects it. And they're telling about how after 6 hours, not a single person. Oh, have you notified the family? Sheckly says at one point, the family, and he's like, what? And have them like freaking out about where their families are. And Sheckly's like, it's been 6 hours. Somebody must have tried to figure out, like somebody would have had a contact. And so they're like, yeah, that is really weird. No, like nobody is contacted. What's going on? So they're kind of going back and forth and yelling at each other. And the PR guy and Bankston are getting in a fight because he's like, Bankston's like, you should be out there talking to the press. And he's like, I've been on the phone for 6 freaking hours. I can take it for about 15 more minutes. And then I'm going to crack. Anyway, at one point, Robbins, the ground crew, the guy who put the chocks in place, is like, I don't know, but it gets spookier all the time. He's like, it's spookier out here, but spooky here, but it's even spookier in there with all those blue seats. And he kind of does it as an offhand remark. And then later on, Sheckly kind of circles back to me. He's like, wait a minute, what did you say? He goes, about the parachutes? He's like, no. And Sheckly has gone into the airplane and comes back out, and he goes, what do you say? He said, about the blue seats. Yeah. He said, but the seats, I said before, I saw them, they were brown before, but now they're blue. And Bengston is like, no, they've been red this whole time. And so they're like, wait a minute, what's with this? The seats are all different. And then Sheckly looks at the back of the airplane where there's the identifier for the registration numbers for the airplane. It's like letters and numbers. And each one of them sees different letters and numbers. They read it off a couple of times and they're like, what is going on? Because they're actively seeing, and the camera shows it too. It's kind of fun. They show different tails. And one of them looks like clearly like a magnetic like poster that was put up or something. So, we had to put one more in here.
If this were modern, they would have taken pictures of the seats and the tail number, and they would put it on the internet, and they'd be like, half of the people will see this and half will see that.
Yeah.
Like the dress.
Are the seats blue or brown or red?
Was it the white and blue dress or whatever? I can't remember.
Wait, it was a blue and gold.
Blue and gold
dress. Right?
Yeah.
And there was another one too, but I don't want to dig into that because that would take forever. So they're all confused about this. And then Sheckly comes up with the 60s Twilight Zone classic nugget, mass suggestion, the hypnosis. Somehow we were all hypnotized. It's like, what?
By whom?
What? How did you? Yeah. And I love this because it's used often as if you listen to like history podcast or kind of like weird phenomena podcast, it's often suggested as a mass hysteria for all kinds of different stuff, events in history, because there's not another good explanation. It's like the what was it? Do you remember ever hearing about the dancing phenomena in Europe at one point?
Yeah, or the what was it? There were the schoolgirls here in the U.S. that all exhibited the same symptoms of I don't know what they were doing exactly.
Yeah. Anyway,
I don't know. It was all mixed with there was some weird shit happening, and it was spreading throughout the populace of the teenagers and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome to Memory Loss Podcast.
Yeah.
So they go into this, and he thinks they've all been hypnotized, and they're all looking at him like he's crazy, but they don't have a better argument. So he's like, now to prove my hypothesis, I'm going to break the illusion. And he's like, and I have an idea, but it's potentially fatal. And he asks Robbins to roll the plane outside the hangar and start the engines. And it's like this cliffhanger. So we go to commercial break, and when we come back, the plane has been wheeled out, and Sheckly's like, okay. And they're like, are you sure about this? And it kind of plays out interesting. And I'm going to name this here because this theme kind of goes with this. And I don't know if this is the how the whole episode is intended, but I kind of read it as a dream because this stuff is weird, right? It's super weird. And then it gets weirder. So Sheckly's like, okay, so I'm going to test this hypothesis by sticking my arm into a spinning propeller. It's like, you couldn't add any other, like toss a cabbage at it. I mean, like there's nothing. No, it's got to be my arm. So, because they've all been on the airplane, and yet somehow sticking his arm in the propeller will make it go anyway.
I feel like maybe it's the level of commitment of believing it's not real, that if you toss a cabbage, right, if you're still entertaining the idea that it's really there if you're tossing vegetables at it.
Right. Because you're not giving into the threat. So this is like a good metaphor for, not metaphor, and a good analogy is if you're playing a Dungeons and Dragons character and you're trying to disbelieve an illusion, you got to do something really significant to, dispel that illusion. So for all the D&D nerds out there, rock on. So he sticks his arm out there. He's slowly approaching it. It's kind of cool. They do like the wind effects, like he's actually going to do it. And he finally gets his arm up there and the plane disappears. And you're like, oh, he's like, whoa, oh, look, I did. And as he turns to talk to the other guys, they start disappearing. And it's like, what? So everything, so plane has disappeared with Robbins in it. He turns to the other guys. They each disappear in turn. And he's like, what is going on? So he starts trying to call out for the staff. He's like, Bankston, Robbins, Cousins. And he's going around and he makes his way back to the operations room. He pops in there and there's Bankston sitting at a desk and Malloy laying on a couch reading a newspaper. And they're like, are you okay? Like they don't know who he is. And he's like, come on, what kind of game are we playing here? We were just out there. We just disbelieved an airplane. Come on. And he's like, are you drunk? He's like, wait, you're Sheckly. He's like, he recognizes him. You're that somehow knows everybody at the FAA. And he's like, he's acting manic and he's like, welcome, and again, as the audience, we're like, yeah, how come you guys don't remember all this stuff? And he says, what about investigating Flight 107? And he's like, Flight 107 landed fine earlier. Like it's totally fine. And they're like, and he's getting more and more distressed because he doesn't understand what's going on. And he goes over and he's like, where's Malloy? And he's like, Malloy's right over there on the couch. And so he goes over and Malloy is holding a newspaper and Sheckly picks up the newspaper and it has an article about I think a actress or something who has arrived this morning. And they had taken a picture of her this morning and put it in the newspaper for the evening, I guess. Yep. Maybe a small town paper.
Get this to the evening edition ASAP.
Yes, exactly. Wow, but Liz, picture. She's great. She's a real stunner.
For young people out there, something that died during our childhood was the twice-a-day newspaper.
Yeah. Or, newspapers in general.
Yeah.
But that's how people got their news. They didn't have internet. If they didn't watch TV or listen to the radio.
And that's why you heard the Evening Post or whatever city you're in, right?
Exactly. So he looks at the paper. He realizes, yeah, it did land. And then as they're talking through it, Bankston's kind of like sympathizing with this guy. Like, yeah, are you okay? He's like, there was a 107 that didn't land, he said, but it was like 17, 18 years ago. And what he comes to find out is that this is a case that Sheckly wasn't able to solve because Sheckly was the one who investigated 17 or 18 years ago. And it was presumed crashed for reasons unknown at sea. And so it basically comes out that this was the one case that Sheckly never solved. And it stayed with him and haunted him all this time. And somehow he's in a fever dream or something.
Twist
so
number
he kind of
two.
mumbles. Yes. He mumbling as he's talking. He goes, I've never been licked yet. Always found the causes. And he stumbles out of the office and we see him out on the airfield in the middle of the night. And he's kind of wandering around and calling out for Flight 107. What happened to you? Why didn't you report? And then he kind of falls to his knees. And you hear a jet engine airplane sound passing overhead as we fade out and hear Mr. Serling, picture of a man with an Achilles heel, a mystery that landed in his life and then turned into a heavy weight, dragging across the years to ultimately take the form of an illusion. Now that's the clinical answer that they put on the tag as they take him away. But if you choose to think that the explanation has to do with an airborne Flying Dutchman, a ghost ship with a fog-enshrouded night on a flight that never ends, then you're doing your business in an old stand in the Twilight Zone.
You're going to do your business in the Twilight Zone?
Doing my business at an old stand, in an old stand at the Twilight Zone.
I'm not cleaning it up.
If I have to, there's no other place around. I'll look for a gas station first.
In the perspective of flying, too, you think about, I looked up the first commercial flight was January 1st, 1914, which is less than 50 years before this episode was made. So if you thought 50 years in the past, right, imagine if the first commercial flight, had happened, to put it in perspective, in the 70s. And, it would, to me, I almost feel like there was more mystery around the idea, spending that much time up in the air. And I think the Odyssey of Flight 33, and this, without them, you wouldn't have the Langoliers, the Stephen King book,
sure.
And several other things like Millennium. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie from the 80s.
I remember I've seen the box a lot as a kid, and I never saw it, but it looked really interesting.
It's a wild movie. I don't know if it holds up. I saw it, when it was new, and I was real young, so dumb enough to buy into every single thing that happened. But as a kid, it blew my socks right off.
I kind of want to revisit some of those. I mean, I've done it with some of them. Like not too long ago, I did the Flight of the Navigator.
Oh yeah,
and I was like, oh, this is cool, sort of, but parts of it are like, really, what?
I didn't see that one as a kid. So for me, Flight of the Navigator, I didn't see until I was grown. Yeah. So I don't have to me, Explorers is that I have this huge emotional attachment to that one. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And then again, watching being like, what? The other one that strikes me is Sword and the Sorcerer.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid thinking that was such a cool, fantasy movie. And I watched it and I'm like, this is like an 80s sex romp.
Yeah.
What?
It's not great.
The heck?
But it also is great. I don't want to shit on it because I do love the movie. He has the greatest sword in that movie.
The sword that shoots its blades out.
Yes.
Oh, that's a spoiler. Sorry. It's got 3 blades.
It's so goofy. It's the Gillette sword.
So goofy.
Hugely influential episode.
Yeah, I wonder if so. I read this all as the first time I watched it again. I always try to watch these more than once. The first time I watched it, I was like, "This is kind of a lame ending," and where is it? What is happening? What goes from here? And I really like the episodes where you're thinking about what happens next. And I kind of thought of this as he's just dreaming, right? He's having a nightmare about this reoccurring with all the weird stuff that happens. Yes, Twilight Zone, but he's just going through and stuck in this nightmare of what happened. I don't know.
It's a good one.
That's how I took it.
A lot of these episodes, I appreciate them more on this run through as many times as I've seen them, because I think I'm looking deeper.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's a fun mystery, right? Because again, you're puzzling along with the main character the whole time, trying to figure it out. And it's cool.
Well, thanks, Joe.
So next week is The Shelter, right?
Yeah. I got my timeline all mixed up in my imagination. We have the prof. Our the first appearance by Professor David Perlmutter, who wrote Blog Wars and Policing the Media, and he's been on The Daily Show, so keep your ears peeled for that one.
It's our second one, because he was on our first episode last week, right?
We recorded these out of order, so I am so confused right now.
We're trying to keep the fourth wall firmly in place. So.
I'm not. I'd rather people not think I have dementia already. You know what I mean? So I'm going to tell them why.
So he was on for 2, which is a lot of fun, and I'd say we have if you liked that episode, the one on The Shelter is really high quality, very much the same kind of vibe as the first one. If you didn't like it, it's the same kind of vibe and a lot of really good stuff in there.
Tons of good insight. So. He provided great. He's an experienced educator.
Right.
Who knows what he's doing. Yeah. So it was nice.
We got a scholar on the show.
Yep. So thanks again, Joe. We'll be back next time, baby.
Thank you, Freddie.